times when two big franchises battled in the past 15 years. And this will be like if they came out either same day or a week from each other. So let's get started. So first, the most recent example. Also, I made this video before, but I deleted it and said let's redo it with an extension, 15 years. First, the most recent example: Superman vs. Jurassic World Rebirth. Superman part DC film. Jurassic World Rebirth, a Jurassic World movie. So, Jurassic World Rebirth so far is winning by about $200 million, but both are successful. I've seen both of them. Superman's the better movie, but they're both great. Then we have Lilo and Stitch vs. Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. Lilo and Stitch is a live-action remake. Mission Impossible is a, Mission Impossible movie. Lilo and Stitch has by far won. Mission Impossible made just under 600 million. Lilo and Stitch made $1 billion. So a over $400 million difference. Yeah. Then going to 2024, we got Mufasa: The Lion King versus Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Mufasa is a both part of the Lion King franchise and a live action remake. So two franchises. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is only part of the Sonic franchise. In opening weekend, Sonic 3 won. That's why you're gonna see a lot of memes that say Sonic won. Sonic the Hedgehog Sonic the Hedgehog 3 had a opening weekend of 70 million domestic. Mufasa domestically about 36 million. But overall, Mufasa won. It made 700. Mufasa made 700 million. Sonic made almost 500 million. Then we go on to Gladiator 2 versus Wicked versus Moana 2. Gladiator 2 is obviously part of the big Gladiator franchise. Moana 2 part of the big Moana franchise, and Wicked is part of the whole Wizard of Oz franchise because we had Oz the Great and Powerful, which was a big hit. There's a lot of different Wizard of Oz movies. Moana 2 destroyed the other two films. Moana 2 made $1 billion. Wicked made, I think, Wicked made 750 million. Gladiator 2 made 460 million. So, I've seen two of these films. I haven't seen Moana 2. Gladiator 2 though is infinitely better than Wicked. Once I was seeing the trailer for Wicked 2 and I wanted to cry because I was like, how did Gladiator 2 lose to this? Then we have Bad Boys: Ride or Die versus Inside Out 2. Bad Boys, you could say it's a pretty big franchise. It's been out for a long time. It's very popular, especially Bad Boys for Life. Inside Out, it's in the 40 biggest franchises of all time. First Inside Out was a smash hit. Sequel was a smash hit. Obviously, these two came out a week from each other. Inside Out 2 is made about $1.2 billion more than Bad Boys, but still, Bad Boys made a good 400 million. Then we have Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire and Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire. Ghostbusters is an iconic franchise. Godzilla is another huge franchise. Godzilla won this battle. Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire made about $200 million total. And then 1 week later, Godzilla X Kong opened and made a total of about 560 million at least. It is today, as of today, it is the highest grossing Godzilla movie in history. Then we don't have to go too far. Then a little earlier back, we have Dune 2 versus Kung Fu Panda 4. You could say Dune is a pretty big franchise by now. It's personally, I think it's the greatest franchise of all time. Kung Fu Panda, you can also say, is a pretty big franchise. So, on March 1st, Dune 2 released, smash hit, amazing masterpiece. A week later, Kung Fu Panda 4 released, dethroned Dune. In the long run, Dune Part 2 won. It made $700 million. Kung Fu Panda 4 made over $500 million. Then we have another Timothée Chalamet film. You're going to see quite a bit of Timothée Chalamet. We go to December when we have Wonka vs. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Wonka is part of the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory franchise, which is pretty popular now. And Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom is part of the DCEU. I watched Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. It's good. I haven't seen Wonka though. Wonka won overall. It made $600 million. Over 600 million, I think. Aquaman of the Lost Kingdom made about 440 million. Critically, Wonka got like extremely won. It has a score in the 80s. Aquaman had a score in the 30s. And then we go back a month when we have The Marvels versus The Hunger Games: The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. The Marvels, is a sequel to Captain Marvel. The Hunger Games: The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is a prequel to Hunger Games. We're getting another one in 2026. Fun fact. The Marvels debuted in November. It had a historically low opening weekend for a Marvel movie, and then a week later, Hunger Games released. Marvels made only $200 million total, making it the lowest grossing Marvel movie, and had a budget of $275 million. So it would need, let me do the math, $550 million to break even, but it only made well, anyway, it was the third biggest flop of all time. Huge flop. The Hunger Games made $350 million, so it was a box office success. It was by far the lowest grossing of the Hunger Games franchise. The next closest is Hunger Games Mockingjay 2 at $660 million or something like that. Yeah. Then this is one where we have 4 movies. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse vs. Transformers: Rise of the Beast vs. The Flash vs. Elemental. Well, Elemental maybe you might not include, but I'm just gonna include it anyway. So Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse came out June 2nd. Then a week later, Transformers: Rise of the Beasts came out. And then a week later, Elemental and The Flash came out. Elemental, well, I don't know if you call that a franchise or not. But those kind of movies just make money. The Flash, DC film. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Spider-Man movie. Transformers: Rise of the Beasts, well, a Transformers movie again. Or a Transformers movie. If I had to bet, I'd bet the Transformers movie would win. But no, actually, Spider-Verse won. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse made $700 million. Transformers: Rise of the Beasts made $440 million. Elemental made just under $500 million. And The Flash made $275 million, and sadly was one of the biggest flops. I've seen three of these films, and I started watching Elemental. Spider-Verse is definitely the best. Then we go literally a week before this, where we have The Little Mermaid vs. Fast X. Little Mermaid is part of Disney live action remakes. Fast X. Fast is just, hey, for franchises, when they say X, it just means 10. So Fast and the Furious 10. Yes, we're on 10. We have 10 Fast and the Furious movies, and plus Hobbs and Shaws. Of these two, Fast X won and made $700 million, but Fast X had a crazy budget of at least $350 million, and $350 million times 2 is $700 million. So I think technically Fast X was a flop because of the ridiculous budget. Anyway, Little Mermaid still made a solid $550 million. Yeah. Then we go a little back. We had John Wick Chapter 4 versus Shazam: Fury of the Gods. John Wick Chapter 4 is part of the John Wick franchise, obviously, and Shazam is a DC film, part of the DC universe. Shazam easily lost to John Wick. John Wick made $440 million. Shazam made under $200 million. Critically, there's a big difference. They're siding with John Wick. I haven't finished John Wick, but John Wick 4 definitely wins. Yeah. Okay. Then we have Scream 6 versus Creed 3. So the Scream franchise, you could say, is a pretty big franchise, pretty popular franchise, and Creed is a trilogy within the Rocky franchise, which is a whole classic franchise. Between these two, I don't even remember who won. I don't remember who won, but I know they both performed surprisingly well. Then we have Avatar: The Way of Water versus Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Avatar: The Way of Water released in late December. A week later, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish came out. Avatar: The Way of Water is the sequel to Avatar, and Puss in Boots is both the sequel to Puss in Boots and a Shrek film. So 2 pretty big franchises. It's not a surprise. Avatar: The Way of Water easily crushed Puss in Boots, and Avatar made around $2.3 billion, third place of all time. Puss in Boots made about 475 million, something around that, nearly $500 million, but it's still the lowest grossing Shrek movie. Yeah. Then we have an interesting one: Black Adam versus Halloween Ends. Halloween Ends released in October. I'm not sure exactly when. A week later, Black Adam released. Black Adam is part of the DCEU. Halloween Ends is part of, well, obviously, the Halloween franchise. So, you could say the Halloween franchise is arguably big. Black Adam won, definitely. Black Adam ended up making about $400 million. I don't remember exactly how much Halloween Ends made. I just remember not as much as Black Adam. Then we have Thor: Love and Thunder versus Minions: The Rise of Gru. A perfect example of meh films, of good films that grossed crazy amounts in the box office. So Minions: The Rise of Gru came out around 4th of July, took the record for biggest opening on 4th of July, and then Thor: Love and Thunder released. Minions made $900 million globally. It's still, even with $900 million, it was the second lowest grossing film in the franchise. Just comes to show how far this franchise has come. And then Thor: Love and Thunder made about 750 million. I prefer Thor: Love and Thunder. I never liked Minions: Rise of Gru. Then we have Jurassic World Dominion versus Lightyear. Lightyear is part of the Toy Story franchise. Toy Story, you have to say, is a big franchise. It is a big franchise. One of the highest grossing. Maybe. I don't know. Jurassic World Dominion is part of, obviously, the Jurassic franchise, another huge franchise. Lightyear was the only Toy Story movie to flop. Lightyear made, Lightyear didn't do so well. Jurassic World Dominion obviously made $1 billion. Then we have Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore versus Sonic the Hedgehog 2 versus Morbius. I originally had Bad Guys Heroes, but I was like, that's really not a big franchise. Fantastic Beasts. Alright, so Morbius released in, I think, the very beginning of March. Then a week later, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 released. Then a week later, Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore released. Either Fantastic Beasts or Sonic won. I think Fantastic Beasts just barely won. I know it was a box office disappointment. Both around $400 million. Then we have Dune Part 1 versus Halloween Kills, another Halloween movie. So Halloween Kills released in October, mid-October, around a week after the duel that's going to be talked about after this slide. A week later, Dune Part 1 released. Halloween, I don't think any of the Halloween movies really made crazy amounts. It's just a popular franchise. Dune made $400 million, and well-deservingly. Actually, no, it didn't deserve $400 million. It deserved over $1 billion. Then we have No Time to Die versus Venom: Let There Be Carnage. So before Halloween Kills released, No Time to Die released. A week before No Time to Die released, Venom: Let There Be Carnage released. Same day as Venom: Let There Be Carnage, The Addams Family 2 released. I think that has to be genuinely some of the worst release date placements in history. I mean, no one even cares about no one even wanted an Addams Family sequel. And then additionally, same day as Venom 2, a week before James Bond. It's just kind of ridiculous timing. Anyway, No Time to Die made about $750 million and is the third highest grossing James Bond movie. After Spectre and Skyfall. Venom: Let There Be Carnage is in the middle of the trilogy's ranking in box office. It made $500 million. obviously the highest grossing is Venom with 850 million. I haven't seen No Time to Die, but I did see Casino Royale. Based on Casino Royale, I'd be inclined to pick No Time to Die. Then we have A Quiet Place Part 2 versus The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. Quiet Place is an arguably big franchise. Arguably. Pretty big, good at the box office with about 270 million. 270 million plus 3. 600 million. I think with the math I just did, it made about $900 million, the three films combined. The Conjuring is the highest grossing horror franchise with $2.3 billion if you combine all their films. The highest grossing being The Nun at $360 million. Now, A Quiet Place Part 2 released on Memorial Day, and a week later, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It released. Now, a week later, however, A Quiet Place reclaimed the top spot, and overall, A Quiet Place made about $100 million more than The Conjuring. Or, The Conjuring made $200 million, The Quiet Place made $300 million. And then we go pre-pandemic, when we have Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker versus Jumanji The Next Level. Jumanji The Next Level released on December 13th. Great movie, trust me. And then a week later, Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker released. Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, meh. No. So, Jumanji made $800 million and was the 10th highest grossing film of 2018, while Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker made $1 billion, and I don't remember exactly what its rank was. Star Wars Rise of Skywalker somehow got Oscar nominations. Jumanji didn't, but they were both successful. Then we have Men in Black International versus Toy Story 4. I think you could say Men in Black is a big franchise. And like I said, Toy Story is a big franchise. Men in Black released a week before Toy Story 4. I don't think Men in Black International made at most $250 million. I don't remember exactly how much, though. Toy Story 4 made $1 billion. So it's pretty obvious Toy Story 4 won. Then we have Secret Life of Pets 2 versus Dark Phoenix. Secret Life of Pets was a pretty successful movie. This made a sequel, made $400 million. Dark Phoenix is an X-Men movie. Released the same day, made $250 million. So, and it was a big flop. Then we have Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire versus Aladdin versus John Wick Chapter 3: Parabellum versus Pokemon Detective Pikachu. I couldn't find a picture with Godzilla King of the Monsters. So, Detective Pikachu released 2 weeks after Endgame. Then John Wick Chapter 3 released a week after Detective Pikachu. Yay! John Wick, you're king. And then a week later, Aladdin released. And then a week later, Godzilla King of the Monsters released. And then a week after that, the whole Secret Life of Pets and Phoenix thing, and then Men in Black, and then Toy Story. A long chain. Overall, of these 4, Aladdin easily crushed all of them. All the other films. Aladdin made $1 billion. Detective Pikachu was a distant second at $450 million. Godzilla King of the Monsters made under $400 million. And I hate to break it to you guys, really I do, but John Wick was the lowest grossing of these with $320 million. No! Then we have Avengers Endgame. Endgames versus Curse of La Llorona. The Curse of La Llorona. This is the best I could find. The Curse of La Llorona is a Conjuring spin-off. I don't know if it's spin-off or prequel. I have no idea what the Conjuring movies are about. It released a week before Avengers Endgame. I think apparently the plan for the Curse of La Llorona was to make money in the Dole movie theaters before Avengers Endgame, just destroyed everybody. Curse of La Llorona made about $123 million. Avengers Endgame opened to $1.2 billion, meaning Avengers Endgame opening weekend was 10 times higher than Curse of La Llorona's total. And then a couple weeks before that, we have Dumbo vs. Shazam. Dumbo's a live-action remake. Shazam's a DC movie. Shazam beat Dumbo Dumbo's, I think it made like an impressive 300 million. I know Shazam made at least 350 million. And I know Shazam won, but I know Dumbo was a box office disappointment. They released, I think, a week from each other. Then we have an interesting one. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was Aquaman versus Bumblebee. So Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse released December 14th, 2018, and then a week later, Bumblebee and Aquaman released on the same day. I've seen all four. I've seen all three of these. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, the best. Close second, Aquaman. Spider-Verse made $400 million, or a little less. Bumblebee made $460 million, and is the second lowest grossing Transformers project. And Aquaman made $1 billion. So do the math. Aquaman's by far the highest grossing. Then we have Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald versus The Grinch. The Grinch, I don't know if you consider it The Grinch. Actually, just forget The Grinch. You might consider it because there's a whole Grinch franchise. But Fantastic Beasts made $600 million. We released a week after The Grinch. The Grinch made $500 million. Then we have The Predator versus The Nun. The Predator is a pretty popular franchise. You know, Predator versus Alien, the Predator sequels. The Nun, it's a Conjuring movie. Conjuring is a big franchise. The Nun released a week before the Predator. The Nun made $360 million. The Predator, I don't even remember how much it made, but I know it was so box office. Critics hated both. I'm not surprised. Then we have Ant-Man and the Wasp versus Hotel Transylvania 3. Also, I just include Skyscraper here because that's all I could find. Hotel Transylvania 3 is made $500 million and is the highest grossing Hotel Transylvania movie. Ant-Man and the Wasp made $600 million and is the highest grossing Ant-Man movie. I think Ant-Man and the Wasp released a week before Hotel Transylvania, but I don't remember exactly what happened. Then we have this is possibly one of the biggest ones on this chart. Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom versus The Incredibles 2. So The Incredibles 2 released in June, had the second biggest June opening of all time after Jurassic World, and then a week later, Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom released, scoring one of the biggest June openings. Overall, both the films made $1 billion, but Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom just barely won. I know Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom made it to the top 25 all time, but both were just enormous successes. I know The Incredibles 2 at the time was the second highest grossing animated movie. And then we have Deadpool 2 versus Solo: A Star Wars Story. Solo: A Star Wars Story, it was a fun movie. Deadpool 2 was amazing. Just amazing movie. Solo made $400 million. Deadpool made $780 million. So obviously Deadpool 2 significantly beat Solo, and Solo had a very high budget. So Solo was Star Wars' only flop. Deadpool, man. Hey, Deadpool's a family movie. If you don't know, that's just something Deadpool says. Then we have Black Panther versus 50 Shades Freed. So 50 Shades Freed released in February. If you don't know, 50 Shades Freed is 50 Shades of Grey Part 3. Yes, they made a trilogy of these. Then a week later, Black Panther released. Black Panther just decimated 50 Shades Freed. 50 Shades Freed made about $370 million. Black Panther, I don't remember how much it made in opening weekend. I just know it was probably close to 50 Shades of Grey's total amount today. Black Panther made, in the long run, Black Panther made about $1 billion more. Crazy. And all I could find, however, when I was trying to get an image of this was accidental showing of 50 Shades Freed. I just feel bad for those Black Panther fans. But Black Panther's meh. Then we have Star Wars: The Last Jedi versus Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle. Star Wars: The Last Jedi is obviously a Star Wars movie. A week later, actually 5 days later, Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle released. However, it took a little while for it to become such a big success. Overall, at the end, Jumanji made $900 million. Star Wars made $1.3 billion and became the highest grossing movie of 2017. But both of them were massive successes. Jumanji easily wins this battle. Then we have Coco versus Justice League. Coco, you might not say is a franchise film, but it's part of those studio things, so let's just consider it for this round. Justice League is obviously a DCEU film. I've seen both of them. They're both meh. But I prefer Coco slightly. Coco made about $800 million. Justice League made about 660 million, sorry, but it needed 730 million to profit, so it was a box office flop, or disappointment at least. Then we have War for the Planet of the Apes versus Spider-Man Homecoming. War for the Planet of the Apes released July 14th, 2017, and then a week before Spider-Man Homecoming released. Spider-Man Homecoming is nowhere near how good War for the Planet of the Apes was. War for the Planet of the Apes was such a masterpiece. Spider-Man Homecoming, made like $850 million. War for the Planet of the Apes, however, made under $500 million. Okay, so hey, the box office isn't fair. Then we have Transformers: The Last Knight versus Despicable Me 3. So Transformers: The Last Knight released in like June. I don't remember exactly when, but then a week later, Despicable Me 3 released. Two really big franchises. Transformers: The Last Knight made $600 million. Despicable Me 3 made a $1 billion. I really like both, but slightly Transformers wins. Then we have Wonder Woman versus Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Men Tell No Tales. You can also include The Mummy in this one. Pirates made $790 million worldwide, but it's still the second lowest grossing film in the franchise. Wonder Woman made like $825 million, and at the time was the second biggest. No, at the time was the. It was the second biggest DC film. The second film was biggest DCEU film at the time, after Batman vs. Superman. And Wonder Woman won, obviously. Then we have Beauty and the Beast versus Kong Skull Island versus Logan. Logan released in March. Amazing movie, by the way. Then a week later, Kong Skull Island released. Made a bunch of money. Then a week later, Beauty and the Beast released. Made a bunch, and, well, set the record for biggest opening. Of these, I think, of these three, Beauty and the Beast just easily crushed the other two. Beauty and the Beast made $1.2 billion. Then Logan made $600 million, and Kong Skull Island made like $570 million, a little less than Logan. Kong Skull Island and Logan, amazing movies. Then we have John Wick Chapter 2 versus 50 Shades Darker. This is an interesting duo. John Wick, obviously big franchise. 50 Shades Darker, well, big franchise, I guess. 50 Shades of Grey won, making just under $400 million. John Wick Chapter 2 made just under $200 million, so I guess 50 Shades made like $200 million more. Then we have Moana versus Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Moana, I guess Moana is a part of the franchise, I guess you could say. Fantastic Beasts is a Harry Potter film. Made $800 million. And released a week before Moana. Moana released a week later, made $600 million. But, like I said, Fantastic Beasts made $800 million and won the battle. Then we have Suicide Squad versus Jason Bourne versus Star Trek Beyond. So, Star Trek Beyond released, made a lot of money, and then a week later, Jason Bourne released. And then a week later, Suicide Squad released. Star Trek Beyond was a good-sized hit. I don't remember exactly how much it made, though. And then Jason Bourne, I think I made $400 million. And then Suicide Squad made... how much did Suicide Squad make? Suicide Squad made $750 million. So obviously Suicide Squad won. At the time, and to this day, owns the record for biggest opening in August. Then we have The Conjuring 2 versus Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows. You're going to see the other TMNT movie here and the other Conjuring movie here later. So, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows was released a week after the movie that, the duo that's next. A week later, The Conjuring 2 released. The Conjuring 2 made above $300 million, which at the time made it one of the biggest horror movies of all time. TMNT made just under $250 million. Significantly less than the first film. Then we have X-Men Apocalypse vs. Alice Through the Looking Glass. This duo was a week before TMNT Out of the Shadows released. X-Men Apocalypse made $500 million over that. Alice Through the Looking Glass made $300 million. Alice was a big flop. X-Men Apocalypse won the duo. I guess because, well, X-Men win over live action remakes. Then we jump quite a bit when we have Maze Runner: The Scorched Trials versus Hotel Transylvania Part 2. Hotel Transylvania is, you could say, a pretty big franchise. Maze Runner is a pretty big franchise. I googled it up. Maze Runner released, I don't remember exactly when, or in like September or something. A week later, Hotel Transylvania released. Hotel Transylvania easily won. Then we have Mission Impossible Rogue Nation versus Ant-Man versus Minions. Well, Minions made a... I don't remember these, or I think it was Minions released, well, made $1 billion in total. Ant-Man released a week later, made $500 million total, and then a week after that, Mission Impossible Rogue Nation released. Of these three, it made $700 million. Of these three, Minions was the most successful. It made about $1 billion, followed by Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, which made $700 million, and Ant-Man, which made $500 million. Then we have Guardians of the Galaxy versus Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles released a week after Guardians of the Galaxy. Made a bunch of money. But then Guardians of the Galaxy was able to reclaim the top spot. Guardians of the Galaxy made about $780 million total. $770 million total. And as of today is the highest grossing August movie of all time. Also one of the best. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles made just below $500 million, $500 million. I think if you ask anybody, Guardians of the Galaxy easily crushes TMNT. TMNT was a Razzie nominee. Guardians of the Galaxy was an Oscar nominee for like technical stuff. Then we have Godzilla vs. X-Men Days of Future Past. X-Men Days of Future Past is part of the X-Men franchise. Godzilla is part of, well, the Godzilla franchise. At the time of release, Godzilla was the biggest Godzilla film of all time. It made $500 million total. A week later, X-Men Days of Future Past released. And that made above $750 million globally. So X-Men won, but both were super successful. I still haven't seen any of the X-Men sequels. Then we have Frozen vs. The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug. Hobbit's part of, obviously, the big Middle-earth franchise. Frozen is, well, I guess you could say it's part of a franchise. It is part of a franchise. Of the two, surprisingly, Frozen won. It made made over $1 billion. Made about $1.3 billion and was the highest grossing movie of 2013. Hobbit made, I don't even remember how much The Hobbit made, but I know it was a lot. Let me just remember. The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug. Let me just check. Yeah, I just downloaded the book. It made $959 million. So both still big successes. Then we have The Conjuring vs. Wolverine. I guess I should say The Wolverine. I don't even remember who won. I think the Wolverine won. It made $400 million. The Conjuring still made $300 million. The Conjuring released, had a huge opening. A week later, the Wolverine released. But critically, the Conjuring destroys Wolverine. But box office wise, like I said, Wolverine. This is I told you TMNT sequel and the Conjuring's sequel would be on this list later. Then we have Monsters University versus Man of Steel. I guess you could say Monsters University is a pretty big franchise. And so, June 14th, Man of Steel released. It had the highest June opening of all time, and, well, went on to make above $600 million. A week later, World War Z and Monsters University released on the same day. Well, World War Z, though, is not part of a franchise. This is the best image I could find. Monsters University went on to gross about $700 million worldwide, while Man of Steel went on to gross above $600 million. And at the time was one of the biggest DC films ever. Then we have Star Trek Into Darkness versus Fast and the Furious 6. I think it was Star Trek that came out a week before Fast 6. I think. Star Trek Into Darkness was the highest grossing Star Trek movie, making $450 million worldwide. Fast and the Furious 6 made about $750 million. This at the time it was the highest grossing Fast and Furious movie until 2 years later when Furious 7 took the top spot. Then we have Skyfall versus the Twilight Saga Breaking Dawn Part 2. This is an interesting one. Also, I genuinely find this one of the weirdest posters of all time. So Skyfall released in November. Broke records. Huge critical thing. Man, still need to see that film. A week later, the Twilight Saga Breaking Dawn Part 2 release. I'm genuinely surprised Twilight dethroned James Bond. Overall, Skyfall won, making $1 billion and becoming the biggest James Bond movie of all time. The Twilight Saga Breaking Dawn Part 2, I don't even remember how much it made. Let's just double check. The Twilight Saga Breaking Dawn. Well, whatever. Twilight probably made around $700 million. Then we have The Dark Knight Rises versus Ice Age Continental Drift. So a week before The Dark Knight Rises came out, the Ice Age 4, or the Ice Age Continental Drift, released. They wanted to do a solid opening before The Dark Knight Rises, just to storm the box office. Ice Age made over $800 million, and I think it's the franchise's biggest film, but I'm not sure. I think I also watched part of this, or I think I watched all of it. Dark Knight Rises, however, was the third biggest film of 2012 after Skyfall and The Avengers. And Dark Knight Rises, well, obviously won, making over $1 billion. Then we have Madagascar 3, Europe's Most Wanted, versus Prometheus. These two released the same day. Madagascar 3 made, I think I don't even... Madagascar 3. I don't remember exactly. Sorry, guys. Well, whatever. Made, I don't know, but I know at least well above $500 million. Prometheus made about $400 million and became the highest grossing film in the Alien franchise. These two released the same day. Then we have Wrath of the Titans versus The Hunger Games. So The Hunger Games released in March. It had a giant opening weekend. A week later, Wrath of the Titans released. Wrath of the Titans was the sequel to Clash of the Titans. Great movie, by the way. Both of them are great movies. Hunger Games kept the top spot. Wrath of the Titans made about $300 million and was just barely a success. Canceled projects for uh I think it was called Revenge of the Titans or Clash of the Titans. Sorry. The Hunger Games obviously made $700 million and spawned three sequels, one prequel, and another upcoming prequel. Then we have Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol versus Sherlock Holmes: A Game of Shadows. Mission Impossible Sherlock Holmes released in December 2012, and a week later Mission Impossible released. Sherlock Holmes made over $500 million total. Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol was the fourth Mission Impossible movie, and made about $700 million. At the time, it was the highest-grossing Mission Impossible movie, dethroning Mission Impossible 2. But I think it was dethroned by Rogue Nation, which was dethroned by Fallout. Then we have Captain America: The First Avenger versus Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. I'm honestly surprised Captain America dethroned Harry Potter, honestly. Because Harry Potter went on to become the biggest film of the year. I'm genuinely surprised. Anyway, Harry Potter released, had a huge opening. A week later, I think one of the biggest July openings of all time. And then a week later, Captain America: The First Avenger released, and dethroned Harry Potter. And then Harry Potter went on to make $1.3 billion. Captain America went on to gross, under $400 million. Then this duo comes out a week before. Then this duo comes out a couple weeks before Transformers: Dark of the Moon vs. Cars 2. I think Cars 2 came out a week before Harry Potter. And I think Transformers: Dark of the Moon released a week before Cars 2. I don't remember exactly what happened, but I know Transformers: Dark of the Moon and Cars 2 were in competition. Cars 2 made about made almost $600 million, like 570, 500, I don't remember exactly how much. Transformers: Dark of the Moon made $1.1 billion and is the highest grossing Transformers movie. Cars 2 is the highest grossing Cars movie. However, both of them were critically panned. Transformers won. Then we have X-Men First Class vs. The Hangover Part 2. These two, I think, came out like a week or two from each other. No, I know Hangover Part 2, and for X-Men came out a week after Hangover Part 2. Hangover made 500 and well over $500 million at the global box office, and today is the 11th highest grossing R-rated movie. Or I think it made like $580 million. X-Men First Class made about $350 million, and surprisingly, The Hangover won. And then the next duo and then we have Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger's Tides versus Thor versus Fast 5. So, Pirates of the Caribbean came out a week before The Hangover. And then, obviously, Pirates of the Caribbean made $1 billion. Then a week before, Thor came out. Obviously, a Marvel movie. It made $450 million. At the time, Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger's Tides was the second highest grossing Pirates movie. Today, it is the same, second highest. And then a week before that, Fast 5 released. Fast 5 made about $600 million, and at the time was the highest grossing Fast and the Furious movie. Thor made $450 million. Pirates made $1 billion. Then we have Tron Legacy versus Chronicles of Narnia, the Voyage of the Dawn Treader. I don't know how much Narnia made. I think it was like $350 million, something like that. I think it was like around $400 million. I don't remember exactly how much. And Tron made about $400 million. I don't remember who won. I know both of them were successful. I don't know actually if Narnia was successful. Then we have The Karate Kid versus Toy Story 3. The Karate Kid released, I don't remember exactly when, but I remember a week later Toy Story 3 released. The Karate Kid made a surprising $350 million total, making it by far the highest grossing Karate Kid movie. And then a week later, Toy Story 3 released, making $1 billion. At the time, was the highest grossing animated movie. It was the highest grossing movie of 2010. Yeah, it was the highest grossing movie of 2010. And for 9 years was the highest grossing Toy Story movie. A lot of records. Then I think this is the last one. We have Clash of the Titans versus How to Train Your Dragon. How to Train Your Dragon, it released in March. A week later, Clash of the Titans. I don't remember exactly when. I don't remember what happened. But I remember How to Train Your Dragon released a week before Clash of the Titans. How to Train Your Dragon made about $500 million. Clash of the Titans made just under $500 million. So they made pretty equal box office amounts. I think I still need. I watched the animated How to Train Your Dragon, but I don't remember it. I genuinely don't. I watched Clash of the Titans actually pretty recently. Great movie. Then How to Train Your Dragon, I think, reclaimed the top spot from Clash of the Titans. That'll be all for today's video. I dropped down in the comments other examples you can think of, but I double checked. I don't think there's much. Check out my channel for more content like this, and I can't wait to see you in my next video. Bye.